Hello, fans. This is Season 2, Episode 1 of the Light Impact Podcast, associated with Light Helmets. Your favorite podcaster, Nick Asayan, and I have a special guest today that's kicking off our Season 2. Our guest has a diverse background in sports. She was California State Athlete of the Year in 1994, a state national champion surfer, former professional surfer, UCLA collegiate softball player, dirt bike racer. I'm not lying about all this stuff. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, black belt, multi-world, national, international, and Pan-American champion. She's also an expert in personal protection. Don't get in a gun or a knife fight with her. And she has used her black belt to empower our youth and young adults to stand up against bullying. She's worked as an on-camera talent, modeled, and has influenced many through her motivational and keynote speaking. Currently, she is one of the most exclusive mindset and performance advisor in sports. Focused primarily in Major League Baseball. Welcome, Danielle Martin. Thank you for being here today. So we always start with, where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about when you were a young person. We need to know the details.
I grew up in the best of both worlds. I grew up on Kauai as well as Dana Point, so Southern Cal. And I had a lot of adversity as a kid. My parents were separated. My dad married my stepmom, and they resided on Kauai. And interesting, lots of adversity.
Brothers, sisters?
I'm the oldest of 4 girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
How'd stepdad do with that?
No stepdad,
No?
just moms.
Wow. Now, adversity, do you care to elaborate on that? Because everyone has it. They get it in different doses. The worst thing you've experienced, it's the worst thing you've experienced. So I'm going to have to get into too much detail, but I think people would like to know.
In high school, there was some homelessness. Just some, I would say, in life there's pits and peaks, and there was a lot of pit walking to the peaks, and the peaks were always brought about and kind of reached through sports because of sports. So, mom made some bad decisions that led her to not be available or around, and dad made some that made it maybe not safe to be around. So I really relied and moved through the channels of sports, lots of different sports, because it felt good to have a place to show up, that you were valued, that it mattered if you showed up or not. And so high school, I played a lot of sports and just kind of looked up and ahead at what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pro surfer right away. I knew that. And I wanted to play collegiate athletics. And it just wasn't as straightforward due to the adversity as I thought it would be, but I just never quit. And these things all kind of came around in due time when I just kind of kept my eye on the top of that peak.
What was the first sport that you jumped into? Because playing a team sport and surfing, totally different mindset.
Very different. The first sport I fell in love with was Little League. I was the only little girl in a 400 little boy Little League.
So you were playing with the boys?
Yeah, I played outfield. I played center field, left field. I played anywhere they put me. And, when you're little like that, you're actually stronger and faster than the boys at that age. So you get a real false sense of security as you get bigger, and they start getting bigger and faster than you, throwing harder. But I love baseball. I played Little League. I surfed when I was 7. And yeah, team sport, individual sport. The water, there is no tapping out. There is no timeout in the water. So I really feel like I found my confidence in the ocean. You learn through trial and error quick. You get held down by a wave. If the wave is too big at that moment, then you really learn, like, okay, there's some boundaries here. That's not for me, or this is for me. This is safe. This is not safe. And, you get put in precarious situations, and you learn really quick that if you panic, you drown. And that's just paralleled in life all the way through life. Same with baseball. It's a great sport. There's a lot of parallels with everyday life with that. So without maybe knowing it, I had a lot of guidance through those two sports. Once I got out of high school, I went pro in surfing. And in high school, I played volleyball. I swam. Some of the other sports seemed so easy compared to just because of what I was already doing. I was in shape for them. And then right when I graduated high school, I went pro in surfing. So I moved to Oahu, lived on the island of Oahu back in Hawaii. And I walked on to the UH softball team. That was pretty simple to do, and surfed in town there at all the little surf breaks, and then was hitting up the North Shore. I had a lot of sponsors. So they were very supportive of me being in college and being a student athlete as well as a pro athlete. And just kind of kept going from there. I did karate. I competed in karate senior year, right out of high school. I
How
did.
did you get in the karate thing? Because usually a parent is taking a little kid to get them started in that. And then, most people tap and the elite kind of keep going. So how did you get started in karate? And was that a you thing or was somebody pushing you along?
I got started in it because when I was having to sleep in a bathroom down at a beach park, there were some pretty serious individuals, some bums that I would put a big hoodie on and kind of disguise myself. And I thought, well, if I ever get in an altercation, what am I going to do? So I was like, I need to learn how to kick ass, and and also the aspect of competing in karate. There was a lot of etiquette. I really liked the environment of it without realizing what it was. The martial artist. I was a big fan of Texas Ranger, and
Sure.
what was that? Kung Fu. I would watch all those films and I'm like, these guys are the bomb. I want to be like these guys, and they just seem so smooth. And it was definitely applicable. Loved ballet. And I think that really added to the athleticism without realizing it, the awareness of body balance, and then being able to be just a human weapon. And in sports, it was more of a natural, I would say, God given mindset that I had that created a defense that really kept me safe, kept me balanced, kept me on the right track without really realizing it. And the sports just kind of, bled into each other in a way that seemed seamless for me to execute in anything I was doing. And that emotional piece of what I didn't have wasn't what I played to. I played with what I did have and the opportunity in front of me. So it was really tough to beat me. I didn't have a full belly when I showed up most of the time, and I was pretty hungry, and it was going to be tough to beat me.
I mean, that's pretty diverse background between the dancing, baseball, surfing, and all of these other things. Jumping backwards, what was it like in, I'm assuming, the 80s to be a young woman playing with all young boys in a baseball league? Like, how did that operate? How did that, A, what did it feel like then? What do you most remember? And two, how did that affect you as an adult?
I didn't know the difference. For me, I loved playing baseball. I was like, what's the big deal? Why is there not more girls out here? It wasn't that big of like a challenge per se. And all the boys at school, they were my friends anyway. So it was like going and playing baseball just extended out of the backyard or over the line in the street, wiffle ball. It was just now we get some jerseys and we're on some different teams and we're competing. I didn't really see it like I was so odd or it was odd to play. How did it play into my adult life? Interestingly enough, I was at some of my son's college games and my little league coach showed up, and he'd been tracking my career through UCLA and even my son's career. And he showed up at a lot of the SC games this last year. And he told my son, he said, he went up, I introduced him, and he said, there was one player that consistently would throw kids out at home plate every time. And I put this player on my team every year because of it. And it was your mom. She would throw kids out at home plate all the time, and they would cry. They would be pretty upset. And my kid's like, Mom, that almost made me cry. I'm like, why? He's like, I don't know. It just made me, I can't imagine you, this little girl, just being that fierce, even though he could imagine it. But just for my little league coach to be standing there, somebody who, and this is interesting. Coaches have so much power that they don't realize, and you don't always know what someone's going through or what a kid is going through just because on the outside you can't see it or they're not wearing it like per se a victim or there's nothing obvious. But without knowing it, that little league coach, I asked him one time, why do you always pick me on your team? And he said, I always pick you because you have a great arm, you're coachable, and you're confident. And I really wasn't confident. It just looked like it on the outside. But on the inside, he said that to me. And to be wanted, to be told like, hey, you bring value, you impact, you make a difference here, and I'm going to choose you every time that I have an opportunity to get you on my team. I wrote about it in my book, and I said, the confidence that he instilled in me, the little something he said to me at the time exactly in my life that I needed to hear it without knowing what I needed, that little age. It carried with me. He's like, you can do anything you want. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. I can. There was not a sport I ever looked at and went, well, this is a boys sport. This is this. I was like, if I want to play, I'm going to play.
Sure. That's an interesting concept, right? Jordan Palmer's one of our partners at Light Helmets. And one of the things he always talks about, and it's not specific to the NFL, it's all sports, and you hit on it just now, internal confidence versus external confidence. Mm-hmm. External confidence is, oh, you driving this car, you look this way, you went on this trip, etc., and people feel good about themselves. They get the dopamine hit out of it. But the external confidence. Internal confidence is, I made 2 mistakes in the first half of the football game where I struck out twice or whatever that might be, and you still have the wherewithal to keep going and you know that you can do it. Do you think confidence is, all developed, or do you think that some people are born with it? Do you think that it's parental? Do you think that it's sports, or it can be a combination of different things from different people?
Confidence is something I believe that we build every day of our lives, whether we know we're doing it or not. Confidence is something that's created within us. It can be broken. It's fragile. It can be powerful at times when we believe we have it. That's different for everyone, because what makes me confident will be different for you, and versus what stresses me out might not stress you out, and vice versa. So I believe that we are, my confidence and my lack of confidence, there was such a polarity of, I felt unlovable. So when people would say the word like, oh, you're so intimidating, I would hear, you're unlovable. And growing up in a family that didn't bring a lot of security for me, physically, mentally, or emotionally, and there was, I believe my parents did the best they could. I mean, they were teenagers when they had me. There was a lot of love, I'm sure, in their way, but I didn't receive it. I never felt like I mattered. I felt like, not valued, not very worthy of much coming out of that environment. So sports, to win something and then to, work so hard to win something next, started to feel very empty in terms of that trophy. And that moment of worth and value was so quick. And then, being on covers of magazines and all that, people look at you and they're like, oh, she has everything. She's this, she's that. She's this great athlete. And athletics is what we do. It's not who we are. And even me, I was tricked by that for so many years to then get to a point of maybe having several failed relationships, or not being able to receive love, or not feeling worthy to respect my value in life. So many times I settled. I didn't know better. But looking back, confidence is, I believe it's a gift at times that God gives us, that we're able to walk in it, whether we know it or not, whether you can identify it or not. It's a choice that we make every day to create it. Despite my feelings about something, we're the only human beings are the only creatures in the world that can choose their thoughts over their feelings. And when I choose a thought, I can choose to move through a space and take action on something. Therefore, that maybe I'm bringing value, giving value, creating a difference, being the difference. And that to me generates a confidence, the capability, the choice to do that. And the fact that I will go choose the higher road to take despite my feelings about anything or my opinions. So confidence, I believe we're always developing and have the choice to develop more confidence and or allow for it to be broken.
And do you think your confidence over the course of your existence, I mean, I can speak for myself too, at early stages, it wavers more, like it bounces up and down more. And then you get to a point where you get that internal confidence. So you have that now. Do you still have feelings of insecurity, or are they less frequent? I mean, if we sat and we just read through this intro again or took a snapshot of you, people would say, like you said, oh, she's got it locked down. Do you have that wavering or wavered fear every once in a while, like many people do?
Of course, I do. The thing is we have stories which are our frame. Our frames of reference are our stories. Those stories create laws, beliefs, rules in our life. So it could be like something, example, when people say stuff like, well, that never happens for me. That's not ever going to happen for me because of what has taken place or been done to them. So I really pay attention to the frames, our reference frames, and frames that have they have stories attached. And for me, every day is an opportunity to write my own story forward. We can't go back and right the wrongs. We can look back and we can learn from them and look at it instead of judging my past. I prefer to assess it and understand some of the whys. And that understanding, we don't always even get the understanding. So I sometimes accept not understanding it, but I move forward and I assess and say, okay, well, if I'm given the opportunity of tomorrow, what will I do? How will I do it? And that frame is set on truths, facts, yes and no. That frame pulls me onto a path and it holds me there within that space. And I only can go forward. And I really am a firm believer that where there's truth, there's God. And when you're really staying true to that, and I've learned so much more about that over time, where I didn't understand or realize the power of that. I wasn't taught that. And for it to come into my life so many times, whether it was through adversity, losses, wins, losing hurts, sports hurt. But sometimes winning hurts because when you win and you're standing by yourself and there's no one to celebrate with, or there's nobody giving, a shit to say anything aside of the people that you barely know, and all these strangers now want to be around you or people want to know you. These are mirrors in your life where you're like, okay, I need to pay attention to the story that I'm writing. And I think the expectations, whether they're external or internal, they're a waste. Those are all results. That's a waste of time. If you stop and you write a frame, you create a frame and you write the story that's based off of a high standard, then you hold yourself to a different standard, a different discipline, a different way of living your life. And when you're living in truths and facts, for me, this is the simplest way you can be. And I really, my brain gravitates towards simplicity. I've had enough chaos. And yeah, as you get older, kind of like we said earlier, you start realizing these things and seeing these things.
That's fair. That's a great explanation on that front. Can I get into a little hot and heavy topic about boys playing in girls' sports? And this has obviously been a huge issue over the last 2 or 3 years. I certainly have an opinion on it. What are your thoughts about that? And feel free to be as candid or you can skip it completely.
No, I will not skip it. I actually fought in a world championship. I stepped on the mat. And when I have fights, I give myself 90 days, sometimes 2 days. I really have a rigorous training that I put myself through. I'm in the ocean. I'm out. I'm busting my ass to give myself the best opportunity to show up and put on a good fight. And I show up. I wait in line. This was a big fight for me for several reasons. And it was a world championship. And that
Jiu-jitsu,
it was a jiu-jitsu one. And I get there and when you're getting on the mat, there's a bunch of different mats. There's quite a few people in the stands there and it's packed. And I don't typically look over and really stare down my the fighter I'm fighting. I just kind of go into my own head. I'm doing breath work. I'm really trying to focus on just being offensive and balanced. And so I step on the mat and the ref, you face off with the person you're fighting. And I look up and I see what I saw was fugly standing in front. I mean, I saw straight fugly and facial hair. And I'm looking around does anybody else see the fuck
facial hair?
Does anybody else see what I am looking? I look at the ref and I give him a look and then look at the fighter. And I look around and the mat's am I the ding dong? Did I come to the wrong mat? Because there's men and women fighting.
Sure.
Different mats. And there's matches going on in other mats is what I meant to say. So not men and women fighting each other. This is the women's division, just to be clear. Middleweight, women's division, IBJJF World Championships. So, and it is, IBJJF is owned by Gracie Baja. So that's a whole nother podcast. So I step on the mat and I'm looking, I'm like, clearly it's a dude or this chick's taking steroids, whatever. I did notice the belt. This is my first black belt match. And this person has 4 stripes. 4 stripes is a good 16 years you've had a black belt before I ever even started training. Fine. I was kind of excited. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to really press this. Yeah. And so, I get a hold of it and they just say fight. I'm like, all right, I guess here we go. So I get a hold of it and I get this takedown, but we go out of bounds. So they stand us back up. Well, this thing probably figured out, like, this is not going to be an easy fight. And I heard some chirping of, like, you're going to mop this chick and talking about me.
Third parties.
I hear it a lot. There's not always, there's a lot of fugly. And so when you show up and you're even decent, they want to come get you. And I've won world championships, so you become a target. And so this thing gets my lapel and gets my pant leg. And they basically did a cheap trick, like, pushed their foot through my MCL, but pushed out my LCL, tore my ligament, like, on the spot. And it actually fractured my fibular head of my leg.
Is it a legal move or is it not legal?
It's just, it's a cheesy move. As soon as they grab my collar, I'm, like, down. They're on their back. I'm down. And the thing is the ref brought us back in bounds and started us in a position. So this thing gets its grips.
Right.
And I'm like, that thing did not have those grips on me like that, but whatever. So I'm really not really worried about it at first. I'm just like, whoa, this is fugly. And it's holding on and then it pushes his foot through. So of course I feel my leg pop in a weird way. And I'm like, geez. And then this thing climbs on on my back and it puts me in like a body triangle from behind and it's doing like a weird neck crank that actually I've never had. And I was like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden I'm like, I feel it on my back, and I feel its dick on my back. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. I've got a dick on my back.
And what year is this?
I don't know. It's maybe...
So this wasn't a topic.
5 years
right?
ago.
Like,
no.
I mean, yeah,
oh, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was not. Yeah. And I'm like, this thing's got a dick. I'm fighting a dude right now in the women's division. This is pissing me off. So then I'm like, I wanted to tap. If this was in a class, first of all, I've never been like actually hurt by a woman. And I'm like, if this was in a class, I would tap 4 different times because that's how bad this thing was squeezing me. It was giving its life to like tap me out, wanted to finish the fight. I'm like, in my head, I was like, go fuck yourself. You're going to have to kill me. I'm not tapping out to you. Like, you're clearly cheating. You just pulled a shit trick on me. Like,
are you hurt at this time?
Oh,
too?
yes.
Yeah.
My leg is done. I can't even. So it's just literally running circles on me and just points, advantage. I can't do shit. This thing's got a body triangle on me. It's behind me. It's literally manhandling. That term, people use it. I've experienced it. I've got a dick on my back, rolling all around me, like buck teeth, facial hair. It's like, what the hell is going on? So I'm getting pissed and I'm like, I'm not fucking tapping out. I will not. And so I'm fighting and this thing kind of starts getting sloppy. So I get its foot and ankle. And where my position was, I needed to pinch my legs together to finish the technique. I could not do it without my right leg. My right leg wouldn't even come up. And I had it and everybody starts yelling. People are cheering. It's getting heated because they're like, holy shit, she might actually tap this thing out. I had him like
close.
That close. It, her, whatever, shim, whatever you want to call it, tranny. And I couldn't get it because my leg would not pinch. And that's when I knew, like, my leg's hurt. Like, I'm really hurt. And then after, so I lose the fight. I finished the fight, 11-minute match. And my leg has just got its own heartbeat. And I crawl, like, behind the little wall and I, like, sit there. And one of my instructors got there kind of late later, and he's like, "Oh, sorry." He's like, "Are you okay?" And I had tears coming down. I'm all, my leg is broken, but I felt its dick on my back, and I was like crying. I was so pissed and like so mad that I cried because I was just didn't even have words for what had just happened. So yeah, I think it's bullshit. Men and women's sports, especially men that don't feel confident enough to compete in their own division, like. You're not a winner in our division there is no way I'm going to punch any man harder than he can punch me. Can I get on the ground and technique leverage beats strength? A man, yes. If he knows what I know, it's going to be very tough for me. But if I'm fighting any guy, any size that does not know what I know, and I can avoid being punched by that man,
Sure.
I'm going to give him a run for his money. But that is bullshit. The swimming is bullshit. The track and field is bullshit. And all these people contesting it, for me, they either have never competed or won anything, which most of them are.
Right.
You know, it's that typical man in the arena whole thing. And I always say everybody's a black belt from outside the ring. Because I've been in fights where I was like, move your arm. You're like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, if I could move my arm, I would. Like, you fucking get in here. And, you know, everybody's a black belt from outside the ring. So all these chirpers and people like, oh, that's my son. No shit. He is. Why is he wearing girl clothes with an absolute moose knuckle in his little tight shorts? And everybody's clapping for this. It's bullshit. It's stealing.
Well, so today in one of the news feeds I was reading, and there was a conflict about this, and I looked at this
Penn State.
congressperson. I looked at this congressperson, and I just thought, gosh, all these young women train for so long, and it's the United States. People can make their own choice. Sexually, you can make your own choice. Physically, what you do with yourself at a certain age, that's your own choice. But if you take somebody's opportunity or dream away to compete because of this issue, and I mean, you're stealing somebody's dream, and your choice to them is either go in and know that you're in an unfair advantage and everyone knows this, and you're the sacrificial lamb in spite of the 20 years you've trained to do this, or capitulate and tap and walk away from something after you've spent 20 years. And I don't think either of those options are fair. I think, hey, if we want to have a third division for people, that
have a training division. Go fight each other. Go swim. Go run against each other. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Why is this so irrationally, like, everything's so irrational? There's no rationality to this. I don't get it.
Yeah, the swimmer, the Gaines girl, I mean, she's done a great job of going out and talking about
She's
this.
Advocated wonderfully, yes.
Yeah, she's done a great job. And, you think of all the threats and the physical abuse she's even taken advocating that. I also give Danica Patrick a lot of credit for going out and talking about these different issues. Now, granted, in a race car, the car's a bit of an equalizer. Yeah, there's a physical component to it. But, it's interesting. And I have two sons, so I can only project what I would feel like if I had a daughter competing in a sport and all of a sudden a male comes in, especially when it's not archery or shooting.
And slams a volleyball right in her face and breaks her occipital bone.
Right.
And then takes a scholarship from your daughter because they want to play there.
Yeah.
And the school is allowing this and pushing girls out of the sport so a boy can come play. And then the locker room bullshit that goes on.
Yeah, that's true too. What advice would you give a young woman or a parent that's in that position now on how to manage that? Do you go and you try to go to a different school? Do you become a political advocate? Do you just go and battle it out? Or, it's a very challenging situation. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really tough one. Because if I'm in that situation and I go in, let's say example, I'm going to SDSU on a volleyball scholarship, and I get there and there's a boy dressed as a girl on my team, and he's obviously an asset to the team. He's slamming balls down twice as fast and hard as any of us could. Not only am I now competing with that to be on my own team, or if I'm on the team and he comes on and they're like, yeah, we need your scholarship. If I leave, they're stealing from me. If I stay, they're stealing from me.
Right.
So I don't see the win in this. I think there needs to be a higher authority, which I'm very grateful that this is starting to shift maybe back to some reality and rationale. But at the same time, there's still several schools out there that are like, yeah, fine, pull our federal funding. We're still going to do it our way. So, I mean, when you're being put in that situation as a student athlete, being a student athlete is already demanding and stressful in good ways enough and some tough ways. So to be up against those types of politics and narratives with that, and also endangerment and inappropriateness, there's a locker room aspect. There's a lot of things going on that they're not being spoken about.
Sure.
And I work with a lot of these athletes across the country, and I hear about it. I mean, I was just with a baseball team at one of the colleges, and they were saying that there's certain things they can't say around campus and things they can't do, and that their school supports this, their volleyball team was actually going to play San Jose State. And San Jose, everybody knows, had the boy on the team. And there were several kids from San Diego playing on that team that were very affected by that. And they said, oh, no, no, our school supports it, so they're going to play them. Because as you know, a lot of the colleges were like, we're not supporting this, we're not going to play you.
Yeah.
So they were losing games. But it's like the question, like kind of what you just say, who's they? They is
Sure.
the kids.
Yeah.
All these people making decisions, we've already had our time. It's about the kids. This is their time.
I agree.
They're the ones being stolen from.
When you take a young person and there's no opportunity for them to quote unquote win, meaning make a decision where they have a positive outcome, that's when the quote unquote the board or the authority figure has to get involved to fix this. So, whether it's Congress, whether it's the NCAA, whether in California it's a CIF, the problem is that it's become a political issue, but as the clock ticks, the young people lose their opportunity. They lose their window to compete. And, it's very, very sad on that front. So, I know you have strong beliefs in that area and have taken a stand there, give you credit and would encourage you to keep on that track. As you went through all of this, did you have a mentor or someone you aspired to be like? Like I played football in high school and a tiny bit in college. Walter Payton was my guy, right? And it was because he never quit and he always had a positive attitude. He dapped everybody up. He didn't spike the football. He had a different performance regimen than everyone else. Did you have anyone like that you aspired to be like, or an adult or a coach that really mentored you and made a difference?
Yes, I've had several mentors along the way, whether I knew it or not. My environment with surfing was, with the Kelly Slaters, Sonny Garcia, and these people that I was out in the water with, and everybody was fierce and aiming to be the best. So there was that. When I was playing baseball, I had, baseball players I would watch on TV and that played the same position as me. And I would watch the little details of how they did, what they did, their athleticism, riding dirt bikes and being in these environments or shows I worked on. There was always that person that stuck out that would come up and make time for me. So mentors are really people that make time for you, see you and hear you, even when you're not saying anything. And so I've had several of those along the way, whether I knew they were mentors at the moment in time. I don't know that, but looking back, I can say, yes, these people were definitely people I was looking up to that influenced me, had impact on me, made a difference in my life, whether they know they directly did or not. And then as I got older, I sought out specific mentors for specific things, or they found me through a lot of times adversity, failing, being put in a bad situation. Chuck Norris is one of my mentors to this day. His body of people have influenced me. His mentors have made significant, they played roles in my life, whether, hey, Danielle, you should do this. You have this gift. Why don't you do this? Why don't you develop this? Where maybe I didn't have the confidence to have done that ever. And I was challenged even by what they said, but trusted them and took the steps to do it and ended up in places I never thought I would be.
Yeah, it's you mentioned it earlier that coaches sometimes don't know how big of an influence they are in a negative or a positive.
Both.
I can rewind my tape and I had some bad coaches. I had some bad coaches that did positive things that really moved the needle. But the good ones, you can't replace that, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that is how they built confidence, even if you weren't measuring up, whether it was your performance, but how did that, and other players that as you get older, or even at a younger age, that help, build you up so that you go and, that internal confidence allows you to try that again and then succeed. Then you realize, oh, that failure wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Like I could recover from that. Now, you kind of ended up creating a bit of a baseball family as well, right? Your partner, in the past, your sons are both baseball players. How did baseball become such a big part of who you actually were and who you became, and even the business that you're in now?
Yeah, that's interesting. I always played when I was a little girl, and then my kid's dad played. I was around it a lot in LA. One of my mentors was an agent, and I thought for a while, maybe I'll go into that business. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. I was working in the entertainment industry. I was I was hosting a show. I worked for Fox Sports, NBC. I was modeling, traveling. I kind of had that dream lifestyle of flying to Tahiti for Surfing Magazine and surfing the best waves in the world, the toughest waves in the world, to coming back and shooting a cover for this magazine on the North Shore, back and then to New York, walking this runway, and then back to California to host this awesome sports show I was working on. So I was always around these very elite people wanting to be the best, do the best. So without realizing it, you are that, but you become more of that. And then that becomes kind of what you're around. And, I met the kid's dad. We had 2 kids. Unfortunately, he decided he was not on the same page and wanted to leave. So he's not in their life in any capacity, unfortunately. But also you maybe avoid that influence that could have been not positive or whatever it is. It's just more adversity, but that's their journey. And so baseball, the people from Chuck Norris's group, I was teaching private lessons in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I had some celebrity clients up in LA and was flying out to Vegas and doing seminars and speaking with Mr. Norris's group. And one of Reggie Cochran, Chuck's right-hand guy, and a book, he writes books. This guy does everything. He's amazing. And he said, hey, it seems like you talk to and work around a lot of athletes. Why don't you make that your business? I'm like, I don't know. And teaching some of the self-defense stuff, I realized more than physical, it was more all about the mindset and avoiding these situations best you could through situational awareness, working on the confidence. And it was always about empowering and elevating someone else to not be in that situation. And the further I got down that road, I realized that I was really, really great at supporting other people to protect themselves, but not so good for myself at that. And that again reflected my confidence, my own self-value, self-worth. And everywhere I would go, people would see those things in me, but I didn't see them or feel them. That's not how I received I wasn't able to receive the things they were saying. I would just kind of blow it off. But Reggie really spent time to stay on me with this. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to go to school and get my master's or do this. He goes, no. And a lot of the coaches, once I called them up, he said, hey, call some coaches, pro coaches, minor league coaches, any coaches, and just let them know what you're doing.
All baseball though, right?
Well,
at this point.
Yeah, there was a lot of baseball just because that was really easy. And then I was up in LA. There was a lot of football players. I talked to a couple of the quarterbacks, big name quarterbacks that were in there. There was some NBA players in there. There was a hockey player in there from the Kings. So I had talked to several of them, sat down with them, and I kind of took the fighter mindset with the protection mindset and the athlete mindset, along with that nurturing kind of big sister mom mindset, and I married them together. And I came up with kind of this very structured frame, and I plugged their sport into it and just looked at their specific job. So, for instance, if it's a pitcher, a lot of athletes will answer these ways. I'll ask them, what's your job? And they're like, my job's to throw strikes, to get outs, to control the runners, to do this, to do that. Every one of their answers was a result. But I was listening to hear if there was any process. And this comes back to everybody can regurgitate the mental skills or whatever, but it came back to the process was missing in the conversation and then activating something that would create an action there for them to take it out and simplifying their job for them and being more specific. So yes, I got very specific. I got one baseball player led to another. I never advertised. I just worked word of mouth. And everything just kind of took on a life of its own. And I thought, well, my gosh, it's like if you're teaching jiu-jitsu, you start promoting your class. And now these people are starting to get up near you, brown belt, black belt, and you're like, I got to stay ahead of these guys so I can keep teaching them and having something to give them. So I've just been evolving myself and seeking out mentors that I believed were better than me at certain aspects of what I felt I needed to be better at. And that's just sitting down and being like, hey, what's working? What's not working? What do I want? What don't I want? Where are my weaknesses? And again, sitting on that frame of truth, fact, yes, no. I wasn't giving myself room to be like, well, I'm kind of this and I'm kind of that. I would push myself to it's either yes or no. And if it's no, then there's a weakness. Go adjust it, not fix it, but adjust. Be better. What can you do in that space? And And the same goes for my athletes and football, rugby. I've worked with a whole rugby team. Every single athlete, whether they're high school, college, minor league, professional at the highest level, there's always something to learn from them. And when you listen to hear, that's the space that you'll really learn in and pull
Sure.
something. Yeah.
It's interesting, so your business now, you work with a lot of MLB players, right? And it's the mental side of things. How many players do you work with at one point in time? I'm assuming this is virtual. You're talking to them on the phone or Zoom, sometimes face to face. You have veterans, you have rookie players, this wide range. Is everybody different? Is there, I mean, obviously everyone's different, but is there like a process that you use, or do you have a different process for each type of player? Like, how does that format itself in terms of how you work to improve each player?
I could be teaching combatives to a military person, veteran, and listening to hear them in the space that they're in, or an athlete, a top level MLB rugby player. My way is just to meet the player where they are and listen to hear them with no bias to what their job is, because quite frankly, I've asked them, what's your job? Like, well, didn't my agent tell you? A lot of agents know I exist and well, didn't my agent tell you what I do? And I said, yeah, of course. But I want to hear from you what you believe your job is. And typically, even in just that, I can immediately pick up where the first adjustment needs to be. Every single person benefits from learning how to use their breath to shift their nervous system from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. So that's one that goes across the board to every single person, athlete, business person, whoever comes my way. But I meet them where they are. And there's a difference between listening to somebody to respond based on what I think. If it's a pitcher, if it's a quarterback, if it's a rugby player, if it's a surfer, just because I think I know your job. When I surf a 20-foot wave, my level of adrenaline or whatever might be very different than someone else's who's maybe more comfortable in that position. Who knows? So I don't assume ever. I just sit down. Yes, I meet Zoom, FaceTime, in person. I love in person. It's great. One-on-one team. But I listen to hear them. Hearing, you feel them, and there's a lot more you're going to get from somebody that maybe they aren't able to say, able to articulate, asking questions. And that space creates a frequency of vulnerability that then can be used as a shield in their performance. And colliding with energies, nerves, nervousness, fear of failure, every athlete has experienced those aspects. So when they have breath and they can control a nervous system, something that powerful, that's for everybody. But meeting people where they are, listening to hear them, and that's not taught in a book. That's just being an athlete who's had so-called mental skills. I've had the best, Ken Ravizza, arguably one of the best people ever. My take from him that I believe with his strength was relationships, his ability to connect is what I would take from Ken. But all the anxiety, confidence in a book, it doesn't play in our sports, in the moments of pain, in the moments of victory. It can't be portrayed on a page and taught clinically, because it is not the same for everybody. Somebody that comes from a different background than me can have a black belt and be competitive, want to have the same numbers as me in terms of competition. But our backgrounds or our stories and our frames can be completely different, which you're going to have a different conversation with me than somebody else. And what my weaknesses are or my fears are might be different than someone else. And maybe I have no fears.
Yeah.
So you really sit down. Listening to hear someone is different than just listening to respond.
How do you think, that we talk about this as being a phone, right? It's really a little computer we walk around with. It's got a lot of other functions to it. But social media, camera phones, the fact that these players are under scrutiny, whether they're in line at the valet, dropping their car off, walking to the hotel, to go get some ice, on the field, what is the effect of social media and like limitless video constantly of these young players? Because most of them are still kids. Um, how does it affect them, and how does it affect them in terms of what you do, like their external feeling of, do they read the stories, do they look at social media, etc.? Like, how does social media and the amount of video that's captured play into these athletes?
The phone for people, it can disable your basic social skills and being able to read body language because they're looking down at something rather than looking up, and their
You mean
environmental.
the player himself looking
Yes.
at it? Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and then the mental emotional, so it's mental emotional and physical, how the effect of it. But the unrealistic expectations, or oh my gosh, their life's better than mine, or I should go get this and buy this. I mean, we could pretty much talk all day for how that might affect, but to be simple, it's reason why I come in and I really aim to simplify and clean a space up, organize it, prepare, approach, execute, space, learn, drill, train, compete. Everything is going to be built in and pushed into a very simple, clean frame as it pertains to their performance based on what the job requires and needs of them. When they look at the phone and they see the social media, they're going to be like, well, I want to get there and get this, get this, get that. I need to get that, get that. I tell them, and what I noticed because of what I've heard from them is that it creates defense within an athlete. And a lot of these sports are going to require offense to go win. Offense to me is being all in all the ways you can, always. In all ways, ALLWAYS, always, ALWAYS. So being all in. And so the phone is not allowing them to be all in on something and be totally offensive. It creates a defense. Why? Because they're taking in information more. And performance is going to be based on the job and the needs and the requirements of that particular sport and job within the sport. So it needs to be clean. That distraction creates a defense. Emotionally, mentally, can be physically.
Yeah.
It's a part of it though. So I do have to accept that is what it is. And a lot of times ask. I've had athletes say, "Hey, I'm playing too many video games. I'm on my phone too much."
They tell you this?
Oh, they've told me. What should I do? And a couple of my athletes, I've actually said, "What do you like to do besides that?" They're like, "Well, I don't know. What could I do? But I'm on the road so much." So then there's the but this, but that. I said, okay. And for two or three of them, three now, I've said, okay, what about playing an instrument? And they're like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, exactly. So go to Guitar Center and get a roadie guitar, like a little one
Right.
that you can travel with,
Yeah.
and download an app on your phone that teaches you chords, because
That's great.
being an athlete is cool, but being a rock star is even cooler.
Especially your athlete that's a rock star.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, that's sick. I'm doing that. And they get fired up, but it's just, I think, and some of them have really taken to it, and they're like, D, check this song. I can rip this song, and we'll get on a FaceTime, and they want to share the song, and different vibe, different energy. So the phones, it's choice again. Are you going to allow it to steal from you, steal your focus, steal your energy, steal your attention that you could be giving somewhere else, being of service to someone else, something else, even your people? How many times do you talk to an athlete? You're like, hey, when's the last time you talked to your mom and your dad? How's that going? How are your siblings? Oh, I'm just too busy. I'm like, so you had time to go on Instagram or this or that today, but you didn't have time to send a 5-second text. So reorganizing what I call the core four. It's the body. Like, are you eating everything you can eat? Are you making the extra time to eat? Oh, I was busy. Okay. So it steals, but it's a choice. So yes, it does affect them, and inevitably it's stealing so much they don't realize.
Right.
And it's very convenient for certain things. I mean, it's allowing them to maybe even staying connected, but you'd be surprised how many aren't using it to be connected.
That's
They're
right.
disconnecting and sedating with it.
The death scroll, my kids call it. When you get on Instagram, you start rolling through it, and then depending on how you react to something, you get fed more of that. Mm-hmm. And some people realize it, some people don't. I mean, you in essence, you're being indoctrinated, manipulated, etc. by the algorithm. And if you're somebody that's playing backgammon and a video game, that 45 minutes or an hour a day that you spend doesn't necessarily manipulate how good you are at backgammon or the video game. But if you're a top tier pitcher or hitter in MLB, or you're a quarterback and you spend that 45 minutes that's wasted and has manipulated you, that can take you from being a 99 out of 100 or 98 out of 100 to an 88. And that can be the difference, right? And I mean, I see more and more of it. And I'm around kids of all ages,
They're
from
addicted.
the 6-year-old that is just starting Pop Warner all the way to the 36-year-old in the NFL. And I say this about football all the time, and I'm more connected with football because of the business we're in. The easiest people to deal with are the athletes. The parents, in some cases, are. Everyone thinks every kid is going to be in the NFL or MLB, whatever it is. And that's good that you have that positive thought, that we know what the numbers really are like, and hopefully they do too. But the players are fantastic. But these, I don't know what the best way to explain it is. It's a distraction from things that they could be learning. If they want to look at their phone, hey, watch a YouTube video on how to weld or change a set of brakes, or read a book, or listen to the All In podcast or the Jocko Willnick podcast, or whatever you're interested in. But getting caught in that death scroll. But kids get in the habit, and the parent can't police it all the time, and we put this computer in their hand. So it's interesting to hear how it impacts your players. So now you're a mom as well, so we got to talk about that. So you have two great athletes that are both young men that are playing baseball. How do you draw the line between your players, who are probably only a few years older than your sons, and your sons are in the same sport, so then you're not like the psychologist girlfriend or mom that's analyzing that person in your household? How do you draw that line, or don't you?
I do draw the line. And I tell a lot of parents too, because I've learned so much from my athletes. You have 30-year-old athlete telling you, when I've asked them, what are your highs? What are your lows? What makes you confident? What stresses you out? And an answer back to me is, oh, my dad stresses me out. And he's 28 years old. And you're like, wow. Okay, in what way? Well, I get to the locker room, all-star game, and he's chirping about, how did I strike out off that guy? And this is a dad who's never played baseball in his life, but he's criticizing his kids so much. And this dad's text messages have become this big leaguer stresses, not even the game. It's his dad or other players, same kind of age range. Now they have kids, and they're like, anytime my parents come around, my dad drives me nuts. I don't even want my dad around my family. And when I hear that, I would be mortified if my kids ever thought or felt that about me, because I stress them out or I am too much.
Yeah.
The kids are going to have hundreds of coaches. They have one mom, one dad, if they're lucky, maybe a stepmom,
That's a great
stepdad.
point.
They're going to have hundreds of coaches, and they need that unconditional space held by the parent that says, I don't care what your batting average is. I don't care if you guys win or you get the NIL from this college or that, or you're playing football here, or you're doing this. I love you. And this is always a safe space for you to come, fall down, get up, lay down, rest your head, get a hug, get a meal, and that's it. Or sit. And we talk about nothing. So I've created something, and it's called the invite. It's an invitation. I do not just come in and speak about the game. I don't say what I'm seeing. If I see something going on where maybe it's a mental well-being piece, maybe I see depression, or I see some stress like on the face or not eating or something going on, I'll say, hey, I would like to talk to you when you get a chance. Maybe it's a walk down the beach. Maybe it's just dinner. And I just ask, how are you? Everything okay? Is there something that's stressing you out that I should know about or that I can support you with? One thing is, I don't use the word help. Male athletes, no athlete, even your kids, especially at a certain age, they want to prove to you they can, and they want you to be proud. So they're not going to come and say, I need help. Very rarely. Parents think they're going to just ask, well, he would have asked me. He would have told me.
Right.
They do not. I've had parents that hire me and they're like, well, he's pretty quiet. He doesn't really say much. I don't see him saying much. And the kid will be on the phone with me for 2 hours. And they'll tell me everything because the space I hold, there's a frequency that says, this is your space. There's no judgment. Throw your pieces in here and let's see what we can do with them. They're going to be better than you think. And so the invite, if parents waited for their kids to say, hey, Dad, I want to talk to you about the game today, the kid would actually probably want to speak more to you about the game that day and maybe days in the past. and then ask you your opinion if you just give them some space for you to come into and let him invite you into that space.
Right, as opposed to jamming them right away. Hey,
Yep.
did you feel you missed this, or why did you do this? And then they're on the defensive, and they clam up. I would guess.
Yeah. And parents are afraid of that. I was
Yeah.
speaking to parents last week, and this dad came up and he said, I have a tough time with that because I've coached my kid, which is lovely. When you have a parent that's actually played athletics that can come in and
Yeah.
support kids in our area and they can step up and they want to coach, it's wonderful. It's awesome. We're getting this big league athlete or pro athlete stepping in. You're like, this is awesome. Like, it's cool. But then they also, it's not like we know everything. Parents, we know how to be. This dad actually came out. He goes, I don't want to be, I don't want my kid. That's like when you said that, that was my worst nightmare. How do I do that? And I just try to keep it simple because every family dynamic is different. Have an invitation. Tell your kid, I'm here for you. If you want me to speak, if you want to talk shop, let's talk shop. But for me, I said nothing. I'm an only parent. So my son had a major meltdown. I saw it coming and it was tough to watch. That's the thing is it's very uncomfortable to hold that space. Very, very difficult, very uncomfortable to hold the space. But your love for your child supports you to hold the space if you don't want to fracture your relationship with them, which, by the way,
discipline.
there's no sport worth fracturing your relationship with your kid. If it's meant to be and they are meant to get to that next level, they will. You don't need to chase the travel, the showcase, the that. If your kid's hitting, if they're pitching, if they're making tackles, if they're producing, they have leverage. That leverage will be seen and they will come for your kid. So this pressure, constant, and the money and you're hemorrhaging financially to keep up with what's on social media and this and this and this and this and that. I'm telling you now, elite needs elite support, but parents of elite athletes, they also need that support. And just create the invite. My kid came to me and I learned from my big leaguers. So God bless them because I've learned a lot hearing them and hearing about their stresses. And I thought, my God, thank you for that because I wouldn't have known. It's not like I just know. But one time my kid came to me and he's like, I was dead silent. He had an absolute meltdown, gets in the car. It hurt me. It hurt me a lot to see him in this position. And he said, you never help me. You help everyone else and you never help me. That crushed me. At the same time, I thought, I'm doing a lot right here because I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? He's like, you're working with all these pro players. And, mind you, I'm on the phone working with these mega stars that my kids know exactly who they are. And they're here, and even in a little kid's mind, they're relating like, oh, I'm like him. I play the same position. Well, you tell so-and-so this, and this. How come you never tell me that? Talk to me the way you talk to him. And I heard my son and I said, okay. I said, do you know why I don't say anything to you? And he's like, no, but it hurts my feelings. I said, okay. I said, I don't say anything to you because I want you to always remember that I'm your mom first. And you only have one parent and I'm just trying to be her. And if you want me to say anything, invite me into the space and we'll go sit down. And mom's going to step aside and performance coach will step in and we'll go through it.
What's his response to that? Did it click
Well,
for
what
him?
did you see? What did you see today? Yeah, I want to hear it. He was aggressive. He was pissed. And he's like, see, Mom, that's it right there. And why couldn't you just said it before? I said, well, I'm human too. And I'm growing too. And you're growing up right with me. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Thanks for inviting me. And he goes, yeah. So then we had this understanding that there's Mom. And it's funny because he's called a couple times when he was in college and, hey, Mom, I knew they got the game that day. And I'm like, hey, honey, did you eat today? Mom, what are we doing for today's game? Let's come on, I don't have exactly all this time. So basically he's like, Mom, pound sand, mental coach, let's get some work done. Let's get business done. So you'll develop a language and you'll know when they're inviting you. And the word support goes a long way, especially if you're a parent giving it where you're like, hey, let's get you some support. You want to be elite. Let's get you some elite support. That goes over better than looks like you need help. They're going to be like
100%. I mean, I'm rewinding my videotape I got one son that played pretty competitive hockey and the other one very competitive football, and try not to be that person that's all over them, but still how that conversation exchange goes. The infight thing is an awesome piece of advice for everybody that's listening to this. So I like that. That's my
The
biggest note
invitation.
so far, the invitation. So on similar, like everybody's a single sport athlete now. You know, when I was in high school, you could play baseball, football. I wasn't a very good basketball player, played some intramural basketball. Now you get these kids who are playing hockey all year long. My one son switched from hockey to football, and he ended up playing lacrosse for all the seasons other than his senior year. He played rugby for his last 3 years, just sophomore through senior, and he was, his number one sport was football. He's a big guy, started most of the games, played, took a shot at a big D1 school. What do you think about single sport athletics at the high school level versus playing everything? What are your thoughts?
I graduated from high school with 12 varsity letters. I think playing every sport was the best thing
You're
in the world.
an exception to policy.
But no, I think I want kids to be out there doing it. Not only is it good for them mentally, it's good for their body to move in different directions, and coaches like it, being an athlete. So I'll tell you, the MLB is shifting a lot, and the utility player is king. It's king because they're like, oh, you can play the infield, you get drafted as shortstop, then you're out right field, center field, left field, second base, third base, first. And you're even seeing them bringing in some of these guys to pitch, which is, they're not obviously taking it seriously. They're taking some weight off the bullpen, but that utility piece is key. Those guys can only do that if they're coming in and I'm not just this. They are open and they're athletes.
Sure.
And they're fit and they're fit to fight. They can go do anything. And that also adds to confidence again, is just try some different sports. But a lot of times, social media and all these opinions of whoever has probably never done it themselves, they're weighing in on, well, this year round, this travel sport stuff. I mean, there's a place for that too, but just.
You think they're because of the money, because of all the camps, and you're on the travel team, and you're on the elite soccer team or whatever it is. I just think that it's people like grabbing the cash, right? And now we're seeing all these Achilles injuries, and you're seeing, in the NBA, like there's way more Achilles injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? It's because the sneakers are different, the floor is different, the guys are stronger. It's because they're playing one sport the whole time. And, we see the same thing in football. I agree with you. I think that the more sports, we're in the football business and some other sports, but the more sports the kids can play, especially at the younger ages until you get into college, the days of a Deion Sanders or a Bo Jackson to play two professional sports can be pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough when they did it. They're generational athletes.
They're anomalies.
Yeah. It's unbelievable when you watch. And they not only do they play two sports, but they play two sports well. I don't know if we'll ever see anybody like that again. But now you have the single sport piece. What do you think about the NIL situation and the transfer portal? How is that impacting college athletes? I love seeing the kids make some money, how they manage it, etc. But what impact are you seeing on players, and is it a positive or a negative?
There's both there. There's positive and negative. The NCAA, it's getting more extreme every year this year. I have rosters sent to me yesterday saying, oh my gosh, look, this whole team got booted out. Coaches, cutting kids, taking money from kids that maybe want to stay at school and finish school. Every time they transfer, they're pulling credits. So that's setting you back, and you're going to college to play a sport, but there's still the school piece. And the school, let's say at Pepperdine, I've got this a couple times this last couple weeks, saying, oh, well, my son wants to transfer to Pepperdine, but they're saying they won't take a junior. They're not going to let you go there 1 year and then give you the Pepperdine degree, even though this kid has got some school like USD, St. Mary's, and now Pepperdine is telling them, no, you can't have our degree. And it's like, first of all, why don't you step aside and realize that you're still going to make your $90,000 for the year, but you don't want to give your stamp on this kid who's clearly academically sound. He's not coming from a JUCO as a junior to just get the Pepperdine degree, like
right.
But a lot of these big universities are doing that, and they want to pull back the credits you have because they now want you to pay for more school and have to. It has nothing to do with 1 year and you get our degree. It has to do everything with, we want you to take that whole year again and pay $90,000 to now come here and get our degree, get our stamp. And then now you have somewhere falls baseball. So No, I think shame on the NCAA. They have been reckless with the changes they've made. They made them very fast. Coaches don't even understand how all the rules are working. Now they just compress the roster spots again. With baseball, I know specific was 34 spots. Everybody's supposed to get a scholarship. It's supposed to be this, profit share. But then there's the NIL attached. You have SEC who's crushing the West Coast on NIL, so they're getting the recruiting.
Yeah.
They're pulling kids from this side of the country, pushing kids falling off, kids being harmless kids that say, hey, I want to be here all 4 years. And they have some loyalty to the school, but they're just new coaches coming in going, we don't have a spot for you. I've seen that down here. I have kids that's a senior. It's been so much stress for parents and kids. It's not healthy for their mental well-being. And also, let's say you're looking at USC, they're calling you, hey, we need a catcher. And they're like, well, wow, you've gone through 3 in the last 2 years. So are we safe there? Are we going to be cut next year?
Right.
What's happening? So
right.
I'm getting so many of these questions, all the technical questions that even me, I don't have all the answers to because it's changing every year. And yes, it's everything to do with money, but people are forgetting that the mental well-being matters. NCAA should be first and foremost on their list. It's not, it's money. And so, yeah, it's crushing a lot of kids. It's crushing a lot of dreams. Amateur sports is gone. I went and spoke to all the first round draft picks for the NBA out in Las Vegas. And the guy goes, guess the minimum NIL here? I was like, I don't know, $100,000. He laughed in my face. He goes, it goes all the way over $1 million to the cheapest one in here, not cheap, but the lowest amount was $750,000.
Wow.
I was shocked. And I was standing amongst every one of the top first round draft picks for the NBA. And I spoke to them. Then amateur sports is obsolete. Once money starts exchanging at these levels, it changes the whole perspective. It becomes, yes, a distraction, but also a pressure. There's a lot of kids that, were like, well, I was really nervous because no schools were talking to me and I don't know what to do. JUCOs are being compressed with a lot of good talent. JUCO is no longer just go to a JUCO, I guess. I'll settle. I'm sorry. No, you won't. You'll be lucky if you get an opportunity on a JUCO roster. There's a lack of leadership amongst the coaches. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of people that there's no authority over the coaches, the way they talk to, treat the kids physically, mentally, emotionally. I've seen all of it. Abuse physically, mentally, and emotionally in a lot of the programs. I get calls about that too. I'm not shy about calling them out, but I also have to be careful because I've had kids at that level that I don't need sniped just because mom's advocating for the kids when we're doing the wrong thing. So we'll take shots at you because a lot of people that don't have leadership, in my eyes, are very insecure, toxic people, cowards, men or women. There's suicides taking place that is not being talked about. We have adolescent suicide at an all-time high. How about the young girl that committed suicide at Stanford?
Yeah.
And
so sad. Yeah.
Well, these things are happening everywhere. Stanford is a giant muscle. And if you don't do it their way and you say or speak anything, ESPN is doing a huge documentary on exactly this. I spoke to them for 3 hours. And I threw the programs under the bus that deserve to be thrown under the bus with truths, all of them, evidence, lists of it. So your kids need to be prepared properly for where they're going because coaches will sit at a table and smile and promise you the world and make you feel like your kid is the answer for the world championship and the kid is everything. And then once the gates close, your kids better be prepared because the bunnies turn into rats most of the time. And
it's a pro sports team, and I get a 17, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid there, right?
Who has an expectation, who's worked their whole life, and the family has invested in this kid and been on the road with them. It's a lot of sacrifice. You miss a lot of weekends. You miss trips. I can't say I've taken all these great vacations with my kids. We missed out on that. We sacrificed for them to be where they are. But, and it hurts when your kids get knocked down by people, not even the game, unnecessarily, and you're standing by and you can't run in and fight their fights for them. So you got to really make sure that their confidence is locked and loaded. And again, they're going into a new level. It's like being a white belt. You got to work your way right back up at every level. If they're in college, then they go to pro sports. They're at the bottom. They got to work their way up. And it's just, you got to have high standards. These kids need to have the tools that where they don't allow people, a game, or things to steal their passion and their joy for what they're doing as human beings. This is why it's so important for them to know, hey, You are not just a football player. You are not just a baseball player. That's what you do. And this is why, again, a parent and their place as a parent is so important. Like, we love you. You are everything to us. You bring so much value. You're smart. You're capable. I'm not talking about sports in those moments. And I'm actually focusing away from it because it's everywhere. The pressure is everywhere. How about all the kids that aren't being committed as sophomores and they're around all the kids that are? And then, oh, he's getting this much money, this NIL, this in the showcases. You don't have to go to every showcase. I see the emails. I get them too. Oh, hey, across the country, we've got a showcase. Oh, we're usually when you go to the showcase, they'll commit you on the spot. Bullshit. So it's $500 and it's $665 plus the plane ticket plus the hotel. Now, can your kid go alone? Sometimes they can. Sometimes they cannot. Oh, why did my kid pitch? My kid's pitcher, but he got there and didn't pitch. You put him at third, so he showcased for you in a position he's not even ever going to play or has played. So what's the problem? The moment you say something, now they're not committing your kid.
Sure.
So there's just focus on your kid's heart, the time where they spend it, who they are, because time and heart are the two most precious things any of us can ever give anyone. And these kids don't know that, don't understand that. They need to hear that and learn that from you. They need their value to come from the love that you show them. It has nothing to do with their sport. It's so important. And those are the tools that they take with them to college that says, yeah, coach chirped at me today, but I know the difference between someone whose their behavior reflects them, not me.
Yeah, and your point on this is what I do, it's not who I am, right? And that's why we see that some of the struggles of, you get the special operations guys rolling out of the military and they've got a mission and they've got limitless resources and they're the baddest ass on the planet and they're doing it with people that have the same urgency and training that they do. Then they get out and no mission, resources are scattered about, or it's hard to determine where do I go to get them. Your buddies are scattered around and you're not doing it for a country or your buddies anymore. You're doing it for yourself, and you're around civilians that are operating at a slow pace. The same thing happens with athletes when they transition out, right? Out of college or out of pro. Do you work with any of the people in the transition out, or if they're not going to play anymore, what do they do?
I do work with them. Some of them have been drafted out of high school and they have money and families, and I had a player this year that got pushed from the big leagues to AAA and then teeter-tottered for about 3 years. And for whatever reason, data started playing in more than the player. And this was an all-star athlete, big league athlete. And he's like, oh my gosh, I think I should maybe get my real estate license. I don't know what to do. And, he has little kids and he's going to spend time around them and enjoy his kids and actually have a life with his family more than he's realizing. There's some aspects of that are positive. But yeah, the fear sets in quick. It hits them like a train and they're scared. And there's a lot of, well, what if this? And just moments of a lot of darkness. And a lot of their tools that they've learned in their sport, number one, like not panic. Like, let's just assess this. Just because I'm not playing doesn't mean I suck. So when there's a certain level and language and way of reacting, it's more coming from the pro action of living and being offensive in my own life, being all in with my people, with my time. And am I just sitting on my cell phone, which we talked about before, or have I engaged in all these other things where it allows me to have that vision and light at the end of the tunnel of a retired, life. And what does that look? First of all, retirement is kind of a sham. We are meant to be here and create. These guys are so capable. And when you talk about veterans, they're coming out, they've been trained at a standard that's elite, and now elite meets average. And they're like, wait a second, we don't speak the same language. So they start feeling alone. You could be in a room with 50 people and you feel alone. So surrounding yourself with other elite people and being open to continue to just learn, be open. That vulnerability actually becomes an armor for you, whether you're on the field. You're weaponized with your ability to be vulnerable when you understand what that is and how to use it. Now, when I step outside my sport, and I've been raised with parents that just said, oh my gosh, we love you so much. You're so valuable. Now I have that value woven into my fabric, into who I am. I know who I am and I can go do anything, because if I could do that, you can't teach a resume of a veteran for the average person can't have his resume, and now he can go do anything. So can an athlete. Student athletes get hired for jobs way faster than a regular
Sure.
just student with this, because it says something so much more. It says you are so much more, and your value could be so much more because of all of what it takes to go do what you just did. But these are not the conversations. Conversations are about velo and how hard does he throw, and he needs to throw harder, and he needs to hit harder, and he needs to run faster, and his 60 was this. Everything is a metric of value, not the person. The coachable kid doesn't get to the big leagues. Neither does he get to the NFL or any of these top places that all these kids are aiming. You know, some of these people are not people you would actually really want your kid around. So I always tell my athletes, what does your signature mean? When you sign a ball, what does that signature mean to you? Who's signing that ball? And they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. I'm like, is that the signature when you look at it that you'd want your own kids behaving like, following like, being influenced by? And they're like, geez, Dee, I didn't think of that. I said, well, you should, because you're going to blink and you're going to be done. That jersey's coming off.
Yeah.
And your family, hopefully, God willing, will be intact. And your kids are going to have this recollection of dad was there and a part of all these things. And now your wife is still standing there, and now you can have this family, and there's nothing you can't do. So yes, I have a lot of athletes I work with that now are retired, have become friends. And I love them because they also remind me what I can go do and what I can be, and having having somebody's trust and respect, and to let you into these very intimate spaces within their hearts and their minds and their time, to have a call where somebody says, oh my gosh, I think I'm going through a divorce. Can you be there for me? That means everything to me. Or I have, veteran friends, special op people who are like, hey, I'm in a dark place. I don't know how to navigate this. And this is the biggest battle I've ever had in my life. I had no idea. And I said, all your training can be mirrored into this space. We just need to talk about how to do that. But you are prepared for this. You can do this. But because they thought they were just one thing, and now they're out of that environment, they don't understand how that moves over to this. Sports weaponizes us for life in more ways than we realize, but we do need support. Every single one of us needs support, and every single one of us is still developing. Nobody just knows everything, and we have so much we don't know. And elite support is important. That means people who have been there, done it, people who are doing it, still learning, out there wanting to learn, willing to fall down and get back up.
Sure. Yeah, putting the people together is interesting. The NFL's done some of that, taking a special ops guy and putting it with a player, and I think that's a great program. We talked a little bit here, putting a foundation together about how do we transition athletes and military personnel into the private sector, because they come out and they've got all this great associative learning, leadership skills, etc., but they don't know about the particular business they're getting in. So you can't put them at the child's table, right? Because they're going to be irritated. But if you put them in the room with the C-level people that know that industry, they're going to feel isolated because they don't know that industry yet. So we have to do a better job of gestating it. The companies can be so much better by bringing these people aboard. And I think that, that's one thing that we'd like to work on as we grow, is to be able to build a template of how do we bring these people in and make the most of all of their strengths? Because it's the person, it's not the talent in a sport or in the military you're bringing in, but it's the person that can take those responsibilities on. So I only have 2 more questions.
I have one thing to say to that.
Yes.
A lot of athletes have been conditioned to be, I need to show up and get, I, me. And when it's all said and done, there is not that emphasis. So if they are listening to this, I challenge them to look at a situation and the anxiety. Nothing collides with anxiety quicker than gratitude, but also your ability and your mindset shift to, rather than what can I show up and get, what can I give? And if they dig deep and ask themselves, like, what do I have to give? What value can I give? Where's the impact that can be made now? What difference can I be, not go make? What's the impact I can be now? And when they sit with that, and it's about showing up to give rather than get, they're going to be really surprised what's revealed to them, because it doesn't just have to be a parallel off of their sport. It really has to do with, where can I give time and be the impact? Where can I give my heart, my time, my efforts, my focus, my knowledge, my skills, and what skills could I be learning to go give to something? So if everything changes just from get to give, they're going to see a path open up for them that they never would have seen before. If they keep aiming like, well, I do this, so I should be able to do that. It's not ever going to be what they expect.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And, the take versus, or what do I get versus give. Yeah. And it sounds so logical, but it's a statement or it's a cliche versus
it's not their
philosophy, right?
Because think about it. If I'm a pitcher going to the game, I got to get the strike, get the win, get the runner, get this, get the out.
Yeah.
And that's how they're conditioned.
Yeah.
You better go win. You better get, or hey, we need you to get a hit right here. Hey, we need you to get the grounder. Hey, we need you to get this. We need you. It's like, okay, I got to go get, and the expectation is to get, and then I pitched a bullpen and it went like this, so I should be able to do this, or I hit 30 balls extra and I should get the hit. So the expectation sets us up for disaster. So a process of just showing up to give, anxiety's gone, and now I can relax and really allow a space for something to come to me and be open to that. And that's being humble, is saying, oh, I don't know shit about that, but hey, I'll show up.
Yeah. No, that's great. Great piece. Coaching, dealing with coaches. So you mentioned this earlier. I didn't have this question written down, but so what's your advice to a parent? Son or daughter's playing baseball, football. We've all had it where, at least as a parent, your perception is my son or daughter should be playing. They're not getting enough time being coached, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, unless something's egregious, and then people's definition of egregious is different, like, how do parents manage that? Do you coach the kid up on how to fend for themselves? That's basically what I did. If there was an opportunity to have the conversation with the coach and you were standing on the side, you may ask a question or whatever, but that getting involved in that just seems to be like crossing the line, but it happens more often than not. What's your opinion on that, and what would you instruct parents to do that have that anxiety? Because it's natural to want to see what's best for your kid, right?
Coaches are people too. Not all of them should be coaches. Not all of them are leaders. Some are absolutely amazing at what they do. But I would drop the expectations. You see somebody in a uniform, a jersey, do not have any expectation. Drop it. And if they are coaching your kid well, and they're sharing and they're supporting your kid to learn, to be a better human, to then be a better athlete, and they have a few tips they can give the kid, grateful, great. Hey, thank you. Go up, shake their head. I really appreciate what you've contributed to my son and the time, or daughter and the time that you've had them. Thank you so much. They don't hear it enough when they are doing well, but it's not my experience. High school up, you may not engage. If you do, you will almost 100% have a problem. Your kid is going to have more of a problem even when they might not say it to you. The level of negativity in the space a coach has to do very passive things. I've reported coaches to HR at schools for clients of mine that I have known, and tons of kids on the team talking to me, telling me things are going on that are beyond inappropriate and should not be happening at these levels, at these universities. I was actually shocked. And I had a lawyer one time at the school say, well, we're really against retaliation. I said, really? Do you play sports? And they're like, well, I didn't. I said, what does that look like to you? Well, retaliation. I said, yeah, exactly. So it's not like the coach is going to run out to the parking lot and key the kid's car. They're going to use a lineup sheet or a roster, and they're going to take their spot. And when you go down there, when I call you back and go, okay, we got some retaliation, you're going to go down. You're not a coach. That's not your lane. And you're going to go, well, why isn't Brian playing instead of Johnny over here? And they're going to be like, Brian's better this week. That's who we see is going to do the best job. Again and again and again, it's going to happen. And that is retaliation.
Sure.
And you cannot argue that because there's no evidential recourse there for you to argue.
Yeah.
So how will you then protect that kid? Because now, the moment you show up and you ask about so-called Brian, now Brian's going to become even a double threat target.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen, and physical damage has happened. A coach slapping a kid, punching a kid in the face. Now the family gets involved, hires a PI. PI goes in and puts pressure, along with me, on the school, on the big name university. And now the coach decided to amicably walk away. Yeah, sure he did. And this goes on. Or the coach got a 7-game suspension. I'm speaking about a real example. I'm just not naming anything. A 7-game suspension. Now, do you think so the lawyer says to me, HR, he said, well, we need names. I go, I'll bet you do. And you're not going to do shit with the names. So I say high school all the way through college. It's extremely shocking. It makes you sick to think, oh my gosh, my kid's going through this, and this is really what's happening. This grown ass man or female is flexing on my kid. You want to go beat their ass. I mean, our job as a parent is to keep our kids safe and to remove the threat or remove them from the threat. But again, there are ways of dealing with this. I've actually coached kids to go in and have conversations with the coach to just, not kind of just avoid the fact that their opportunities are being taken away, especially if it's necessary. The kid is actually good enough and should be playing or was told. There are questions. This is what I will say. So no, you've got to have your kid engage them. High school and up, I would say it's not a good idea. A lot of times at these first meetings that the coaches have, both high school and college, I've been at both, where they've said, do not approach us. We don't want calls from parents asking us why your kid's not playing. Do not do it. We don't want that. If you have issues, your kid has an open door for your kid. There are coaches that said their door is open to parents. That's a trap. I don't trust it. I don't care what they say. The kids need to go in and say, so coach, and talk role play with your kid, or find someone who can role play with them. So
that's a good idea.
Role play. So go ahead and do this. I've done this with so many athletes, including big league athletes that needed to go have a conversation with GMs or managers or AAA, coordinators, or something was going on. Agents, I'll always, at the pro level, that's different. But sometimes even agents won't, because agents are like, well, I have 30 other players. I don't want this organization pissed off at me because I want to get my players jobs. So you'll find that will also back down. So empowering somebody to go in and have a very reasonable conversation. Do you want an example of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I have a kid who's not getting opportunities. And they've done everything. Because I've had kids, I say, hey, well, go in and ask him, what's going on? What are you missing? Oh, I already did it. He said, just keep doing what you're doing. I said, okay, let's press him a little more. It would go a little something like this. So I'll have the kid be the coach, because the kid knows. I said, speak to me exactly how the coach is going to respond, because you know him.
Because the kid knows, right?
Kids knows. And I said, say it exactly. So I'll go, excuse me, coach, can I get a few minutes of your time? Yeah, sure. What's up? Coach, I've been working really hard, but what do you need to see from me in order for me to get opportunity? Like specifically, what would you need to see from me in order to get an opportunity? Oh, just keep working hard. Because I get this too. The kid will be like, you just keep saying the same thing. Okay. Coach, if you were me, what would you go work on? Keep working hard, but what would you work on if you were me? What would you work on specifically? And then sit with it. One kid said to me this year, you know what, just get the fuck out of my office.
Wow.
Or no, he said, this was good. He said, just get the fuck out of here. I got to tell you, on the other line, end of this, looking at this kid's face, knowing that this is how a coach talks, I stopped and I said, is that something he's actually going to say, or are you being funny? Because sometimes kids will be funny with me. He goes, no, I've heard him say it to other kids. I said, so this, exactly, get the fuck out of here. He goes, yeah, what do I do then? So I said, stay with me. Coach, I would almost laugh. And I said, do you mean out of this out of the team or out of your office? Which is it? I go, hold your space. Hold right there. Because most kids are going to get up and run or cry.
Right.
He goes, okay, yeah, that's sick, D. I like that. And I go, okay, let's flip. I'm going to be the coach. And I'll even, as soon as I get the vibe of who this guy really is and what his, just no boundaries, just an absolute douche to talk to an exceptional kid like that. I'm like, really? So, and then the kid will do it. And he goes, oh, they'll mess up, they'll stutter. And I said, so even doing this with me, they're so nervous, Nick. It as an adult and somebody who could go probably whoop this guy's ass, I'm like, it enrages me. But at the same time, I'm like, okay. And this is where I pull such a intense focus, and I hold this space, and all my energy is like, just empower this kid. And the kid will call me. I said, okay, when are you going in for this conversation? Tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Okay. Do you need to call me, or do you want me in your pocket? You want to put me on the phone? Maybe. Yeah. I'll let you know. Then I'll get a call. Hey, I went in. How'd it go? Did he tell you to get the fuck out of here? He goes, no. I was ready for him to. He didn't even go there. Actually. And it's just the difference of like, oh shit, I'm
Well, you give
scared.
them all the tools. So
I
when they
gave the
go
tools.
in, they go in with confidence versus going in, on their back foot, ready to get knocked around. It's
Preparation.
huge, right? Because you gave them the worst case
It didn't
scenario.
mean he wasn't, he gave me the worst case, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not scared. It just means they're prepared.
Oh, that's
And
great.
and so it's great. So empower your kids, prepare them for where they're going, because it's not all of what and we imagine, and the landscape has changed a lot since a lot of us parents have been in college.
Yeah,
It's rare to see kids start at a school and finish at a school anymore, even really good ones where you're like, how did the school let this happen? The transfer portal is chaos. It's chaotic. It's messy. Some kids are finding freedom in it from a coach like that. They're like, cool, peace out.
right.
Right. My advice to the transfer portal and to anything in regards to any of that, aside of the NIL and all the money and stuff, is simple. Go where you're wanted and go where there's opportunity. Those two things are going to get you closer to the right place and where you're supposed to be than, oh, well, they're not giving me anything. It's only 20% here. It's only this. It's only that.
Right.
Coaches, and ask the question, if my son or daughter gets hurt, can they still go to school here? Do they still have a scholarship? Ask that question.
Yeah.
That's the silent contract that when they try to pull it, you're like, If he wants to stay here, go ahead and kick him off the team. But my kid's going to stay at Stanford and they're getting their degree.
Sure. Yeah.
And the coaches actually lose that scholarship spot because the kid, they can't take that. But a lot of people go, I'm off the team. Oh no. And they hit the transfer portal. The minute you hit the transfer portal, your scholarship is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. And people don't know that either. Oh, I didn't know that. I was just going to try. No, it's void. Do not get in the transfer portal and just jump in. Do not be impulsive. Talk to compliance. But parents, the recruiting trips, ask that question. If my son or daughter gets hurt, can they still go to school here on that scholarship? Oh yeah. As soon as they say yes, that's the contract.
Yeah.
If they know that you never asked it, they're gonna
Does that have to go in writing or no? No.
Nope.
That's interesting. Yeah, that I didn't know that. And with the whole new settlement or whatever, the decision that Congress went through, this deal where the schools got $20.5 million to spend, and then there's the collective that can spend money, and
There
then
is
there's
no more collectives, apparently.
well,
But
and then
we
there's
know
the
there is.
individual. Yeah, there is, and then there's the individual companies as well, right? So, it's still Pandora's box, and yeah, there's some limitations on it. But I think what'll happen is, there are coaches, and I think it's challenging, right? Like it's free agency every year for a football team. So if you try to build a tight, well-run team, and you lose 35% of the players every year, the quality of the football goes down.
It
right?
does.
And
Imagine what it does at the next level too.
oh, for sure.
It affects the product
Yeah.
of the game because they're meddling in this way. But also all this money and all it's like if Light Helmets goes, hey, we want to give you an NIL and sponsor. Yes. Now they go to the NFL and now it's a different helmet with the team. They actually lose out on money for licensing if there's a licensing deal from any other company because Light Helmets would have tied them up based on the company. So the NILs, you have to be careful with the schools. Before any company comes in and offers you an NIL, you have to go through compliance first.
Right.
Don't say yes.
And the states are different in some
Yes.
cases, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's crazy. It's like it's still Wild West. I think over time it will smooth out. But how you just explained how to deal with coaches, I mean, we're going to compress that and put that all over social media because it's such a big issue. And parents are nervous. The coach is probably nervous, especially at high school level, right, on how to deal with this because they don't want to deal with it. And the kid for sure is off balance because if you just say, hey, you should go talk to the coach about it, you're not preparing them at all. So that's a great point. So the last question I ask everybody that's been on our podcast is, and you've had this dynamic life. We didn't even talk about the injury that you sustained, about a year and a half ago?
a year and a half exactly.
So I'm sitting with a person that died. Is that accurate?
Yes, I passed and came back.
Yep. And I mean, that could be a whole separate podcast, which we should have. But, I'm happy you're here sitting with us. And not everybody's as fortunate to come back with their faculties and physically and mentally. You've had that challenge. You're a mom with kids that are, headed in professional athletics, college athletics. One's finishing, one's headed in. you've been a professional athlete yourself. Through everything that you've done, one day, what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, my kids are my legacy, so everything that I've poured into them to be good men, to be good human beings. They will always, your boys too, they will always walk this earth and represent us in some fashion or form. But if, second to that, I would say impact and difference. And my grandpa always used to tell me, leave the world and the places that you go and visit and the people that you visit better than when you came. People remember you for how you allowed them to feel around you more than any game you win or anything you're going to do. So impact and difference, I would say. I always want to come into a space and leave it better than when I came, or a person. So that would be it.
I think it's a great answer. And, professionally have an opportunity to do that with the players that you work with, your kids, and, all the other people on the philanthropic side of things. So I appreciate you coming and spending so much time here with me today. And our first, hopefully we'll have you back again, because we'd like to jump into a couple of other things. But Danielle Martin, wonderful having you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Nick's the best person to do podcast. You
I don't
are.
know.
I've been
We'll
telling
try.
you that for years. It's so good.
Just wait till we get to the next chapter.